I'll explain this one fairly quickly for you. So you saw before where we were able to say that a machine was unauthorized to use a particular software title. So here the top two, it's saying their status is unauthorized, they don't have it installed, and as a result, they are compliant. But I do have this one machine that is unauthorized. He has it installed, and as a result, he's not compliant with my policy. So that's how you can start to read that graph. Let me just head back up so we can look and see what that looked like again. When we're looking at this, we're going to be able to see quickly who's authorized, who's not authorized, and then am I in or out of compliance based upon those values that we entered. The other thing to note here at the top, the applications we looked at, so you can come in here and enter your license information. I'll just go ahead and double-click. Looks very similar to what we saw before with that financial asset management, but it's tuned to my software. Of course, we have the dashboards, and if you want to allow any attachments, then you can attach those, again, much like we saw with that financial asset management. Okay, the next part of the application management was blocking a particular title. So here again, I'm going to go back to the home screen. We'll launch our wizard, and I'm going to do the second bullet, and here we're going to do the prohibit. So here I'll hit next, and let's say we're going to prohibit Notepad. So here it's prohibited versus being monitored or protected. The source, we'll say it's one of my scanned applications. And the folder we're going to drop this in, we'll say this is my software prohibiting. We'll go ahead and hit next. And now it's asking for the application. So for this one, and we know everything about it, so we'll just say the name and the file name is notepad.exe, and OK. Oh, we've already got one of those. So let's call this one Notepad 1. Here, let's choose a whole different one altogether. I built one of those earlier. My apologies. So let's do command, something to that effect. So we'll come back in here and do, we'll say CMD. Prohibited, scanned, and then we're dropping it into my prohibiting. Okay, and then again, we'll just say command. Okay, so now once we have that, then we're saying who we're going to prohibit that from running against. So again, here, let's just add a device, and we'll put this onto this box, and then we'll finish. Yes. Now, what that will look like, I'm going to, again, peruse down here, and we're going to go under Application Management and the the software prohibiting, and we've prohibited this calc. So this is why I built one up earlier. The devices that I prohibited that on were 2 machines. So what will happen, this is one of the machines, so let's just try to launch. We're looking at calc, so let's try to launch that. So what they'll get is, it looks like to them, yep, that's running, but then they're presented with this box that basically says the following applications are prohibited by your administrator and were stopped from execution. And there it is. So I'm using something similar. You may opt to do streaming applications that are running, taking up bandwidth, whatever the case is, whatever it is that you want to block, you can do that. So it will appear to them that they can run it, and if they actually do need to, then they can let you know. Maybe they would enter service this ticket so you can remove the blocking from their device so that they can use that going forward. Okay, so that's how you would do the application monitoring and, of course, the software license management. Okay, so if we head back, so we've talked about software asset management, managing IT risk and exposure. So what we're talking about here is really compliance, and this compliance takes many fashions. So the one could be you have a compliance policy that's going to block them from, let's say, putting USB devices in the machines. So that's an operational rule. We kind of looked at that. The 170 that we're providing you out of the box, blocking the USB is one of them. But you also have compliance that you can make kind of think about it from the perspective of I want to make sure that we have the latest patches. I want to make sure that everybody's on a certain version of IE Explorer. I want to make sure that our virus definitions on the machines have been updated in the last 7 days. So that's compliance as well, managing your risk and exposure that you can put in place from client management. So if we take a quick look at this, what I'm going to do is just head to the compliance. And let me collapse this view so we get some of this real estate back. So here I'm going under the compliance management. And I'll bring up this PCI dashboard for starters, just so you can see quickly. You can build a dashboard, and then you can put whatever aspects in this dashboard you want. What we opted for on this one is to see quickly, is antivirus installed, is anti-spyware installed, and I can check our compliance. For each of those, have they been updated? And again, I can look at that very quickly. Now, of course, the meat behind that is, well, you're saying they're updated. What's the frequency of that? So we've set it up that it needs to be updated every 7 days. So if we dig in and look at one of these, I'm going to go look at the PCI, and let's look at this anti-spyware update, because each of the compliance policies has this criteria that you can build upon. And for this one, again, I've said updated in the last 7 days. So when we take a look at this, I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel and look at the results. So it's just looking at the definitions having been updated. I can see I've got 11% of the machines compliant, 55 not compliant. I looked at 9 devices. So there again, we can now do our due diligence and then go ahead and update those machines accordingly. But really with this compliance, so I alluded to this earlier, it can be whatever you want as far as what you want to set a compliance against.
Patch management, the additional thing that we're able to do outside of just the operating system is some of the third-party applications. So what that means is you can turn off the automatic update that Java turns on and that Adobe turns on, because really when I do those automatic updates, it could be breaking other functionality that we have. So if we take a quick look at this, I'm going to head back into the demonstration. Again, there is a wizard for the patch management, so maintaining that simplicity that we can walk through. And I would do that because I know we're running short on time. I'm just going to go right into patch management to show a couple of things here. So, of course, the system itself is going to check. Chatlac is one of our partners that sources the patches from the third parties and the various operating systems that you have. Now, you're setting up your master server to go out with some type of frequency and do that update, typically once a day. So that's what you'll see here when it says the configuration. But then you can get very specific. So what I'm going to do is go in here and look at the bulletins by product, and I'm going to sort this by my device count, because what this is telling me is in my environment, I have 9 devices that are running Internet Explorer. I have 8 that are running on Java, but you'll start to see quickly from those third-party applications which ones are in play in your environment. And so then, of course, at this point, you can decide how you're going to build these up and then do your ultimate deployment. So if we take a look at this one, let's look at this Java. So here I'm just clicking Java, and then again, I can be very specific. So in other words, let me look at the critical one. This is looking for the last 6 months. Let's look for the past. Well, there should be some for that, actually. And so there I can see I've got 4, and I can see my device. So at this point, you may decide I'm going to build up critical updates for Java and send those out in my environment. Then I'll create a job and then target the devices. Now, a good rule of thumb is I'm targeting a subset of the devices, maybe some of those that are indicative of my environment, because I want to make sure that the patch does not cause any other issues before I roll it out to production. And so that's where that targeting of maybe a patch test bed comes in play. Okay? So again, with patch, what you want to just recall or remember is, in addition to doing the operating system, we also do third-party patching natively. If you have an app that doesn't fall under our native scan, then what I would do is utilize application management to deploy that out to my devices. Okay, so reporting, I'll hit the rest of these slides and then we'll just go quickly and look at the reporting. So you are going to get out-of-the-box reports, and then if you need to create additional reports, the solution itself comes with a native report generator or report builder, so you don't have to learn any other language or any other applications to do the reporting. It's native, it's built in, and then again, you're just kind of walking through your widgets. That VPN I alluded to earlier when we were talking about the topology is not required. So if you have machines that never make a VPN connection back to your network, you're going to still be able to service them just by placing components in the DMZ. Oh, and then the My App. So I'm going to show reporting in the My App, and that will wrap us up. So the My App is what's embedded in the agent that allows you as an administrator to advertise applications, and then your users can selectively decide what apps they want to bring down to their machine. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So here I'm going to hit this report, and I've actually sourced a few of these up, so we should just be able to look at them. So I did the compliance by device group. So this is kind of what we were looking at earlier, but I can see quickly. This was my hardware one when we were looking at the BIOS and the disk space. But here's the report then that's generated that I could potentially send out to those necessary parties so they can see if we're in compliance with a given compliance policy. One of the other ones out of the box is just doing an operating system breakdown. So there I can see on the left the various operating systems that we have, and then on the right what service pack, how that service pack breaks down. And then this third one, my device manufacturer. So there again, 20% of the manufacturers that I have in the environment, Hewlett-Packard, and then on the right, my operating system breakdown, and then you can kind of scroll down that detail. But from the console itself, under the report heading, you'll notice for each of those modules, you'll have out-of-the-box reports, and then again, the ability to create additional. Now, the last piece was the client. On your clients, they'll have this My Apps application, and so here is where, again, you can serve them applications. It becomes more you advertising, and then if they decide, yes, I actually need to use Chrome to access a particular website, and we don't have Chrome by default, they can pull it down because you've advertised it. Okay? All right, so the integrations we've talked about, and again, that's with your ITSM application. So there's native integration or convergence with Remedy Force, with Service Core, with Remedy. And what that means is when I'm in an actual incident, I can converge or utilize any of the data points that have been built up in client management.